Recording on the camera so we can post it.
Hi everyone, so sorry we've been having technical difficulties. We're about to start our event. If we could have our speakers come up to the front here, Dr. Matt Olson, Miss Lynn Hill, if you guys can come up to the front as well, that'd be great. Thank you.
No, I just needed that. I needed it.
Good morning and welcome to the International Mountain Day here at UVU. My name is Janessa Michelle Purcell, and I'm the president of the Utah International Mountain Forum, as well as the Road Raft Club here at UVU. I have the privilege of moderating today's event. We are honored to host UVU's 16th International Mountain Day Observation. Through UVU's Student Engaged Learning model, this event has been organized by students in collaboration with our faculty members, bridging classroom learning with real-world global issues. International Mountain Day was established by the United Nations in 2002 to raise awareness about the vital role mountains play in sustaining life on Earth. This year's IND theme is Glaciers Matter for Water, Food and Livelihoods in Mountains and Beyond. And we dedicate this event to the United Nations declared 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. Before we begin our program, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Jeanette Colvin, Associate Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Daniel Horns, Dean of the College of Science, Dr. David Conley, Research Director at the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy, Dr. Jay Dessart, Chair for the History and Political Science Department, Dr. Bob Holley, prominent mountain climber, and Kathy Ambrose, president of the Orem London Rotary Club. Our Q&A will follow the completion of all presentations, and I will now invite Natalia Figueroa, president of the Foreign Affairs Club, to introduce our first keynote speaker.
Thank you, Janessa. Miss Lynn Hill is a legendary rock climber, author, and global advocate for women in sports. Miss Lynn Hill is best known as the first person ever to free climb the nose on El Capitan in Yosemite Valley. Over her career, Miss Hill has won more than 30 international climbing competitions, including multiple victories at the prestigious Arco Rock Master in Italy, and has been featured in National Geographic, Times, Sports Illustrated, and Outdoor Magazine. She is the co-author of her autobiography, Climbing Free: My Life in the Vertical World. Miss Hill continues to travel, teach, and speak worldwide, promoting environmental stewardship, personal growth, and empowering women and youth. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Miss Lynn Hill.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here today, International Mountain Day. Before I was a professional climber, I actually got an education. I got my degree in biology. So these topics are really true to my heart, not only because of nature, but the science behind it. And the first photo that you see here is speaking at the town hall in Boulder, Colorado. 350.org, if you're not familiar with it, has to do with the parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. At that time it was just over 350, and now it's like 430. So it's climbing, and it's a really serious problem worldwide. Let's see if I can get this to go forward. Is it this one? Oh, there we go. So the coal plant, which we fought to have closed down and work more towards renewable energies. I think this year they said that they might have to use it because we have such a high demand for energy. And with AI, there's a whole new charge on our world for energy and water. So another important aspect of this whole global warming trend, it's real, and here we are. This is a group of climbers working with the Access Fund in Washington, D.C., trying to protect the lands that we have from drilling, and actually in Utah we have a lot of that going on out in the Moab area. So I think they've had some success, but it's a learning curve for figuring out how to address Congress and get people to actually change legislation. So my experience being, having traveled all over the world, traveled in Europe a lot, this is in the Dolomites of Italy. All these places have shown over time the regression of the glaciers, like hundreds of feet in the last 100 years, both in Chamonix and in the Dolomites, throughout Europe. In fact, everywhere that I've been. This is in Chamonix, and apparently it's even hurting their tourism business, because if you don't have snow, you don't bring people to the mountains. So this is like impacting places that have had history of not just tourism, but obviously the water and everything from the growth of their crops and everything depends on the mountains and the snow. This happens to be in Switzerland. I went there with a friend of mine who was pregnant at the time. We decided to climb this route, avoiding the streaks of water. But even in Switzerland, the snowpack is less than it was. In South America, there's drought pretty much throughout the country. This is in Bariloche. In the year 2000, there's barely any snow in January. Also in the Atlas Mountains, you don't see the mountains here, but everywhere that I've been, they are really low in snow. This is in Banff, Canada, where I've been to a couple of film festivals and learned a lot about glaciology. And I just heard on the news, NPR, that in Antarctica, 5 miles of glacier melted in 2 months. So this is really dramatic. It's been like an 11-year drought in Banff. This is another friend of mine who was on the first expedition to Annapurna, the first successful one. It was an all-female team. Annie Whitehouse is my friend, and Arlene Blum, who actually is a friend of Bob Pillay, who had helped invite me here. She's doing some great work getting rid of fire retardants and things like couches, carpets, and you name it, all kinds of products. Really important work, and I'm really proud to be part of a climbing community that cares about our environment. So since we were talking about Kyrgyzstan, I have some photos of Kyrgyzstan on a trip in 1995. We were dropped off in this Aksu Valley, and we didn't have any communication with the outside world. It was a 3.5-week period there. We did rely on the river for water, and brought in just whatever we could have flown in by helicopter. We also met some of the local people that were really nice. They come up valley from lower down in the wintertime. So this was in the summer, in July, and their yaks obviously need to graze on the grasses up there, and they're really friendly. They make their own bread, flatbread, and yogurt, which they shared with us. And another friend of mine, who I just found out just the other day, was there, and she was with a partner that didn't really take care of her as he should. She ate something bad, and he just left her under a bush, and a local person in the area brought her back with a horse and brought her to a family who nursed her back to health. So really nice people. They live in a very simple way, And I have to say that, you know, our ancestors probably did a much better job of living sustainably within their environments, not over fishing or over hunting or any of that stuff, because it causes an imbalance. As soon as we look at the environment as our commodity to be exploited, that changes the whole dynamic of nature and us human beings living in balance with nature. So the picture you just saw was Kitty Calhoun, who actually lives in Utah. She was 4 months pregnant at the time of this trip. So it was pretty intimidating to be out in this area, very remote and you know, quite a long journey back to civilization. So this is kind of like the Yosemite of Kyrgyzstan. I ended up doing this climb with my friend Greg Child, whose daughter I ran into ironically yesterday at the climbing gym. And we ended up climbing all night long on this very long route. We got up at 3 in the morning to hike to the base and climbed all day long. And it gets pretty difficult when you're up at about 15,000 feet or so, because the altitude starts to wear on your body. But we ended up sleeping on this ledge all night, got up the next morning, and this is what Greg looked like at the top. And he said, I said, "How do you feel, Greg?" And he didn't even say anything. He just said, "Give me that camera." And so that's how I looked. So this was in 1995, quite a long time ago, but a lot of these mountain areas get attention in the media. So we did a lot of photos for the North Face at the time, and now there are expeditions all the time. So obviously this is a resource for a lot of mountain communities all over the world. And I got my first experience of what a point release avalanche is. I was standing next to Conrad Anker, and we were going down the left shoulder of that snow there, and we could feel the electricity in the air. It was like buzzing, and it felt like bees were in our helmets. And if you just get down low against the mountain, just against the ground, you don't feel it anymore. Just the electricity is just surfacing, and that means a storm is coming and possibly lightning. Then he looks up and he goes, "Oh, there's a point release avalanche." And what that was just snow coming at me, and it knocked me off the slope. And fortunately, I used the ice axe to self-arrest and did not land in the crevasse, which you see along the bottom of this. But anyway, it was very exciting. Being in a place like this, you know anything can happen. We did have some snow in the middle of summer, pretty exciting. And this is the whole team, the North Face team. Greg is on the left, Alex, Conrad Anker, Alex Lowe, me, Jay Smith, Kitty Calhoun, and Dave Osmond. Excuse me. So there was snow in the middle of summer in the Aksu region, and good thing, because the communities around there absolutely need it. This was a photograph that was given to Alex when he came on another trip to speed climb one of the mountains, and they said, "Why don't you try this route?" It's a 4,000-foot wall, which is larger than El Cap, and he and I pioneered it in a couple of days. That's the line that we ended up doing on this wall. And on our way, we also were invited to have some yak yogurt and flatbread by some of the locals there. So you can see we had to traverse some snow to get to the base of the climb, and across that birch run at the bottom that you see in the background. But when you're out there on these walls, the first rule is do not fall. That was the first rule I learned when I was climbing, because a lot of times the protection is not that great. And when you're casting off on a face that you don't know, you don't have any information, you just have to hope that you're going to come up and find some protection, which I did. This was one of my most scary moments on this climb, because you can't really see where you're going to be able to get any protection. And you're climbing with extra gear and shoes that are not quite as performance fit for like the sport climbing that you might find in the gyms around here or on the cliffs. But luckily we made it. But by the end of the first day, Alex asked me, "Where's our second rope?" And I said, I don't know, it was clipped in right here. Apparently the second rope got unclipped, so What that meant was when we were going to get down off of this 4,000-foot wall, we just had to do twice as many rappels. And each time you do a rappel, you actually have to leave some gear. And since I was the lightest one, I had to take out the backup piece and only trust my life onto one piece. But luckily, we made it. We did what's called a team free ascent, which means the leader free climbs, not using any of the protection or aid, and then the follower carries the pack, as you see, which the steeper it got, the more physical it was. And I finally realized maybe I should have like a strap that keeps me in from like having to, you know, go up the ropes with all the weight pulling me backwards. So every time is a learning experience. This is at the top. We learned a little bit of the dialect there, and so we wrote in the little summit can, we could write what the ascent was, and we wrote, "Life is tight," which means life is great, life is beautiful. So unfortunately, that was the last time I was able to climb with Alex because he died in an avalanche in 1994. So we were happy to get to the ground, and he shows me a picture of his kids that he always had in his pocket. And then when he talked to his wife, he found out he had a third kid on the way. So the scariest part of this trip was actually getting into the helicopter. We put all of our gear in, everybody loaded up, and they couldn't lift off. And they're like, well, if you just, everybody get out, we'll take all your stuff down to a lower altitude, and then you can get in, and then we'll take you all to your, the Bishkek, where we were flying out. So yeah, when you go on these trips, you kind of have to roll with whatever happens with transportation, food, and be very careful about the water that you drink, because it's not pleasant to get sick over in a country like that. So I guess back to the theme of today, I'm a big advocate for all of the things of renewable energy, trying to get away from fossil fuels. I know that we need energy in this world, and sometimes, we have to resort to means that we don't want, but my feeling is that we could use a lot more solar, geothermal, wind energy. We could do a much better job than we're doing, and it's just a matter of turning the attention to those things, because if we're going at the rate that we are right now, we're not going to have that many glaciers left. And if we don't have glaciers, we don't have water, we don't have food, we don't have the industries, and a lot of people are going to suffer. And actually, we might not see it as much as on the other side of the world, because with the changes in global temperatures, there's changes in the currents of water, it changes the weather patterns, it's really creating a lot of havoc in our world. So my hope is that we can do a much better job, advocate for clean energy, and do our best ourselves. I do have some solar panels on my house because I opted in as a very first round of solar in Boulder, Colorado. Now I think I have to update them because they're so much more efficient. But if you can afford it, go for solar and EV cars, whatever you can do to lessen our impact in this world. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Amos Brock and I'm the Vice President of the Foreign Affairs Club. Thank you, Ms. Hill, for that inspiring presentation. Next, we welcome Dr. Muktar Djumaliev, a seasoned diplomat and economist who has represented Kyrgyzstan globally for over 2 decades. He has served as ambassador to the United States, Canada, and Belgium, and as permanent representative to the United Nations and World Trade Organization in Geneva. He also served as First Deputy Minister of the Trade and Industry, shaping his nation's foreign trade policy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Muktar Djumaliev via Teams.
Hello from Bishkek. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, it's really great honor to be with you today and to speak on the occasion of the 16th United Nations International Mountain Day here. And I think I also thank to the previous speaker, Ms. Lynn Hill, with sharing with the pictures from Kyrgyzstan. And I prepared my presentation, and I want to share my screen now here that you will follow patiently. So this year the theme of Snowbank Matters for Sustainable Water, Food and Livelihoods in Mountains and Beyond deeply resonated with Kyrgyzstan, and where the mountains are not only our geography but our identity and source of life. I'm glad to return to Utah Valley University after my first visit in June 2013 and to continue our shared advocacy for our mountain communities. In 2027, the Kyrgyz Republic, together with other mountain states, will host in the United Nations second Global Mountain Summit in Bishkek. We look forward to welcoming you all to this landmark event. Moreover, the representative of the Ministry of Economy to the World Trade Organization, Mr. Masutov, and I look forward to co-hosting Utah Valley University students during the 2026 study abroad visit to Geneva at the WTO. The World Trade Organization, where we discuss how free trade principles can support mountain communities in Kyrgyzstan, Utah, and Switzerland. Over 94% of Kyrgyzstan's territory is covered by mountains. These mountains provide fresh water, energy, biodiversity, and natural resources for the entire Central Asian region. Yet they are also highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Glaciers are melting, rivers are shrinking, and communities are facing growing risks. Recognizing this, Kyrgyzstan has developed what we call the Mountain Agenda, our national and international strategy to promote sustainable development of mountain regions. It focuses on three main goals: protecting fragile mountain ecosystem, improving livelihoods and resilience of mountain communities, and securing global recognition of special needs of mountain countries. Our glaciers, which store up to 40% of region's fresh water, are threatening alarming pace, with many projected to lose more than half of their volume in mid-century. This will create seasonal water shortage for millions of people in Kyrgyzstan and across the region. The Mountain Agenda is our response to this urgent challenge. Mountain communities remain among the most exposed climate risks, relying heavily on the agriculture, livestock, and natural resources sensitive to the climate change. Through the Mountain Agenda, we work to strengthen early warning system, diversify local economies, and promote sustainable and land management. The Mountain Agenda is built around the 5 interconnected pillars. The first, environment and climate, ensuring the climate adaptation, glacier preservation, and sustainable use of natural resources. Second, economy and trade, promoting mountain agriculture, organic production, and ecotourism endeavors. Third, social development, improving the infrastructure, education, healthcare, and employment. And fourth, the culture and heritage, protecting traditional lifestyles, crafts, cultural landscapes, and defining our mountain identity. And finally, advancing the Central Asian collaboration with partnerships with the United Nations system, including UNDP, FAO, and UNEP. The international dimension for Kyrgyzstan has long been recognized as a global advocate for mountain development within the United Nations system. And in 2022, Kyrgyzstan, it was our country to initiate the UN declaration of the International Mountain Year of Mountains, marking the beginning of the worldwide movement of mountain sustainability. 2 decades later, in 2022, Kyrgyzstan once again took a lead by sponsoring the UN General Assembly resolution proclaiming International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. Building on this momentum, our nation is now implementing the 5 years of action plan for development of mountain regions, a national and international framework to transform commitment into the concrete results. Looking ahead, Kyrgyzstan proposed to host third Global Mountain Summit in 2027 in Bishkek, an event that will bring together governments, scientists, and communities from the world. We also advocating for the establishment of Global Fund for Sustainable Mountain Development and to ensure the long-term financial support.
Are you sure the battery is not hot?
My phone?
Yeah.
The mountain agenda is not an isolated policy. It is fully integrated into Kyrgyzstan's national development and climate strategies. At the national level, it supports national determined contribution, we call it NDC 3.0 under the Paris Agreement and UNDP climate promise, focusing on the climate adaptation, water security, and ecosystem restoration. As a part of this work, Kyrgyzstan is strengthening its national climate planning, including data collection of glaciers and snowpack, and investing in more resilient infrastructure for the high altitude regions. These efforts ensure that our adaptation measures are science-based and aligned with the global climate commitments. At the regional level, the mountain agenda complements cooperation platforms such as Comparative and the P5 Plus Fund Program. And our presidents just recently met and also confirmed the collaboration among Central Asian countries and the international partners. Through these platforms, Kyrgyzstan is working to harmonize environmental standards, to improve water governance, to develop and coordinate approaches to disaster risk reduction. And the global stage, on the global stage, the contributions directly to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly on the climate action, which is SDG 13, the life on land, then clean water and sanitation. In short, Kyrgyzstan's mountain agenda represents the comprehensive cross-sectoral vision where the climate action, social progress, and economic opportunity go hand in hand for the well-being and mountain people of the mountain region. The success of Kyrgyzstan's mountain agenda relies on strong institutional and partnership with both national and international levels. The Ministry of Natural Resources, Ecology, and Technical Supervision serves as a lead coordination agency supported by the Office of the Special Representative of the President for implementation of the 5 years of action for mountain regions, headed by Ms. Dinara Kemalova. This institutional framework ensures that mountain-related policies are not fragmented across the sectors, but instead benefit from unified leadership and coordinated implementation, which also reflects Kyrgyzstan's commitments to involve mountain issues to the highest levels of the government, ensuring the continuity, accountability, and long-term strategic planning. At the head of these efforts is our flagship national program, 5 years action plan for the development of mountain regions 2023 and 2027. This program aims to translate our international commitment into the real improvements by modernizing water systems, expanding renewable energy, supporting ecotourism, and empowering local communities through the education and health and digital access. It is through such partnership and coordination government of Kyrgyzstan seeks to create the model integrated people-centered mountain development, one that can be shared globally, especially with other mountain countries facing similar challenges. The vision and closing of Kyrgyzstan's envision and becoming the leader of mountain diplomacy and sustainability. Our approach combines 3 core principles: advocacy for mountain ecosystem and international multilateral forums, science-based policy making and address climate change and biodiversity loss, and inclusive socio-economic models that empower the people living in highland areas. So mountains unite us, and they are reminded that sustainability is not just a goal, it is our responsibility. And I would like to thank you very much for your attention and for allowing me to make my presentation at today's special date dedicated for the mountains. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. Good afternoon, my name is Anna Caballero, and I'm a member of the Utah International Mountain Forum Club here at UVU. Thank you, Dr. Djumaliev, for your great presentation about the mountains. Our next speaker is Dr. Matt Olson. He is the Assistant Professor of Earth Science here at UVU. Dr. Olson studies global alpine glacier change and the effects of melting glaciers on mountain environments and water systems. An avid climber himself, he combines scientific expertise with a deep personal appreciation for mountains and mountain landscapes. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Matt Olson.
All right, well, this is my first time at International Mountain Day, and I'm excited to be here. It's great to follow up talks about experiences in the mountains, and then also things that are happening to protect our mountainous areas. So there was a little bit of an introduction about me, a bit more. I've been here at UVU for about 4 years, and I've loved my time here. Excellent students and faculty and community. I was born and raised and have spent most of my time here on the Wasatch Front playing in these mountains, and I love them dearly. I have an 18-month-old daughter and 2 dogs, and our family loves to continue to romp around, though it is a little different nowadays. And I'm an educator and a cryosphere scientist, which I'll talk about in a minute. My PhD work was at the University of Utah, studying glaciers in high mountain Asia, which includes the Himalaya, Karakoram, the Hindu Kush, and many other areas in that region, and specifically using satellite imagery to monitor and understand what is changing in that area because it's so large. I won't spend too much time talking about this, but I'm involved in several different ongoing projects with students, and some of them are here actually. We are in collaboration with a local ski resort and the University of Utah studying the snowpack just right up here behind us. And I continue my work on glaciers in high mountain Asia and more recent work looking at rock glaciers here in Utah. So Utah does not have any glaciers. There are several hundred rock glaciers that exist, and the largest is actually on Mount Timpanogos. And so we go up there and then also do some other analysis using satellite imagery on those. And I'm happy to talk more about those. This is a picture from a few years ago when I was involved in the NASA Snow at Swim campaign in Little Cottonwood Canyon. and we are sampling the snow for the amount of water that's in the snowpack and doing some other things as well. And I do similar things with students every spring. So the cryosphere includes glaciers and mountain and seasonal snow, but also ice sheets, permafrost, and sea ice. And these systems are changing dramatically on our planet. They are the best documented evidence that we have of climate change. And furthermore, there are feedback loops that happen, which basically an enhanced change that goes on due to the strong reflectivity of ice. So much so that when you change some of these systems, there are global consequences that happen. Obviously, sea level rise is an important implication with this. And I'm however, more interested in freshwater resource availability, which is what I'll talk about a little bit more. This is a photo here that I took of looking up towards the Grinnell Glacier in Glacier National Park. You can't even see the Grinnell Glacier anymore. It's back behind that peak, and it only persists in an area that is shaded for almost the entire year. So here's a water tower in South Salt Lake. This is less than 2 miles from my home. And back in the distance, you can see the snowpack of Neffs Canyon and Mill Creek canyons. And the snowpack is a different kind of water tower for this area, but functions in somewhat a similar way. Other areas in the world that have glaciers, and even the rock glaciers, they are also sources of storage and freshwater input into our system. It's estimated that more than 2 billion people depend on mountain runoff. However, with more than half of global freshwater coming from mountainous areas, that number is even larger. These systems are changing, and we actually know that mountain regions are warming at 2 to 3 times the rate as the rest of our planet, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's the case. Focusing a little more on mountain snowpacks, here's a picture of my beautiful wife in the Canadian Rockies. Seasonal snow is largely a Northern Hemisphere phenomenon because of the orientation of the land masses on our planet. However, you still have it at high elevations in the Southern Hemisphere. In the Northern Hemisphere, it covers more than 30% of the land mass, and a lot of that is concentrated in mountainous areas. This Arctic and alpine amplification, this is the term that describes the enhanced warming that happens in both the Arctic and mountainous areas due to the change in snow and ice extent, which changes the reflectivity, and so the rocks and soil and water absorb more energy in this area. And this is why they are warming at an accelerated rate, 2 to 3 times the amount. And in some areas of the Arctic, it's up to 4 times the amount. What we're seeing is earlier snow melt, shorter snow season, and more precipitation falling as rain rather than snow. Zooming in a little bit closer into the western US and here in Utah, around 70% of surface water comes from mountainous areas across the western US. However, as you get closer to the Rockies and the Cascades and the Sierras, that number goes up to 80% or more. And snow melt has been happening 1 to 3 weeks earlier. Since the 1950s, more than 80% of our snow monitoring stations show a statistically significant relationship that snow melt occurs on average a week early, and many areas 2 to 3 weeks early, some even up to a month. Models predict that in the next 30 to 60 years, it's likely across the western US to have low to no snow conditions. And that just means it's going to be very variable, and that will be a normal condition if we continue on this trajectory. Low elevation areas will experience this more quickly, so the Pacific Northwest will be the first place to experience some of this low to no snow condition, and other parts of the western US will follow thereafter. Here's a picture I took of a friend going up Little Superior in Little Cottonwood Canyon. And Little Cottonwood Canyon and Alta Ski Resort has some of the highest snow accumulation in Utah, and it's frequently in kind of the top 10 or so for North America. It's interesting. Snow, the amount of snow that falls in an area isn't exactly where you might expect. For example, the Pacific Northwest and northern Japan have more snow accumulation than the Himalayas, than Antarctica. It's interesting. Switching over to mountain glaciers, since I do study both and they're very similar systems, a glacier forms due to snow that accumulates and persists in an area, and then it recrystallizes and flows downhill until it reaches equilibrium. And this is why glaciers are excellent indicators of climate change. They tell us what's going on with our climate. Simply put, these are flowing rivers of ice that store water in them for thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. Globally, there's anywhere between 200,000 to 400,000 glaciers, depending on how you want to divvy them up. And we've seen them retreating. All regions are losing mass. There are a few exceptions with glaciers, a few glaciers that have remained stable, some that have grown a little bit, but generally glaciers are losing mass. Globally, more than 40%, and then retreat rates and mass loss vary between 30 to 70% based on different regions. We've also seen in the past couple decades that this is accelerating, right? As you might expect, and I've mentioned some of these enhancements that can happen to our mountainous areas. So certain areas, just over the past 10 or 20 years, account for up to 40% of the melt that has occurred. Focusing on a few areas in particular, so High Mountain Asia, which is one of the areas that I study. Just in the past 20 years, there is over a 20% loss in ice. This is known as the third pole because there's more ice in this area than anywhere besides our polar regions. In the Alps, for Central Europe, glaciers only exist in the Alps now, and by the end of the next century, it's 80 to 95% total volume loss. In South America, across the Andes, already 30 to 50% area for these glaciers have been reduced since the 1970s. And in North America, Glacier National Park has already lost more than 80% of its glaciers. Furthermore, in the last 20 years, Alaska has accounted for more than 25% of the global ice loss on our planet. Huge changes. What's also a little scary about this is even with aggressive emission reductions, glaciers will continue to change because they retain a memory of climate. Some other impacts occur as glaciers retreat and as snow cover becomes smaller in mountainous regions. And maybe you've seen this on the news. This is a photo from the Swiss government of the town of Blatten in Switzerland, where a glacier avalanche and landslide destroyed most of an entire town. Fortunately, they saw this coming and they were able to evacuate everyone in time, but that's not always the case. For example, back in 2021 in Uttarakhand, India, there was a glacier collapse that led to a huge debris flow, wiped out villages, killed more than 200 people, destroyed hydroelectric facilities, huge amounts of damage. And there are other hazards as well. So glacier lake outburst floods are a common thing that happen across the Andes and the Himalayas and other mountain regions.
Did you try to...
Humans use fresh water in a variety of ways too. Not just for drinking, but also agriculture and economic reasons. For example, Pakistan, which has the most ice out of any country outside of North Africa, uses water in the Indus for agriculture and textile industry, which is some of their major exports in that area. There's also other countries where hydroelectric power is their only export, like Bhutan and the Himalaya. There are potential political conflicts. Many of these countries, the very populated countries like India, China, Pakistan, the mountainous regions are disputed country borders. And in the 1980s, there was a conflict between India and Pakistan over the Siachen Glacier, where they recognized this massive glacier was a huge resource, and so they tried to stake their claim on it. It's since been resolved, kind of, I think. I'm not a politician, so. There are also public health concerns. Glaciers accumulate mercury over time. Mercury is in our atmosphere and has been spread throughout the ocean largely due to the burning of fossil fuels. And as glaciers retreat quickly, we have noticed a flux in certain areas of mercury into our watersheds. And closer to home, as our snowpack changes, and this is also somewhat related to water use in our state, we've seen declines in the Great Salt Lake. And if you live in Utah, you've seen recent articles about the toxic dust that is getting into the cities around Salt Lake and surrounding areas. Overall, we know that our mountain regions are changing, and earlier snowmelt, disappearing glaciers will and are impacting water storage in these regions. We need mitigation and adaptation strategies at this point, and really the future depends on the present. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Olson, for that informative presentation. We will now move forward with the Q&A. For the sake of time, questions will be taken from students in the political science class. Sorry. I would like to be the first to ask a question, which is open to all speakers. I represent both small island nations and the mountain communities in Hawaii. As climate change has negatively impacted them to the point they are abandoning their livelihoods, small island states are the focus of the international community. How could we attract similar attention to the mountain communities and families?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know how to attract the attention, but coastal areas and island communities are at huge risk for sea level rise, and we have already seen the impacts in many areas. It's a huge portion of our population.
Can you connect my phone to
within, just a few meters of
I
sea
might try
level
to
rise.
connect my phone.
For example,
Or
when
just switch it to this one.
If all of Greenland were to melt, it's well over, I want to say like 18, 20 meters of sea level rise, which is huge, right? Antarctica is like several hundred feet of sea level rise. So I'm not exactly sure, but I think the issue is there. It's it's just getting people on board.
I would just add to that and say that you need to talk about it more, especially in the coastal communities, because I just read recently it can go up as much as 60 meters, almost 100 feet. So that's going to put a lot of coastal areas and islands underwater, and that should be
There's nothing we can do.
Because
What
we
we'll
don't
do
do
is we'll
anything
post
now,
a
it's
video
only
of the
going to get
rest
worse, and it's just amplifying.
this weekend,
It's getting so
probably.
much faster than predictions were.
And it's okay if you can't get
Pretty
it.
scary.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can.
Thank
There's
you.
nothing much
Our
we can
next
do.
question will be from
It's okay.
Olson.
Can you do that? It's possible either to use my phone.
Okay.
Only if you send it to my Apple ID.
So you've been crucial in advocating for significant legislation such
Because
as
I'm trying to
the
get
Explore
connected
Act,
from
which I
here.
believe was
It's a good
sponsored by our very own Senator Curtis here in Utah. What is the greatest lesson you have learned combining rock climbing with conservation?
Well, this is a long story, really. I believe that people should work together towards the goal. And climbers might have their selfish interests to do their climbs, but they have to understand that there are a lot of other issues that are much greater than recreation. But I think we can work together to have the recreation as long as we're respectful of all the issues. And that includes everything from the trails to compostable toilets or something like that, water use.
Can you try streaming
I really
here?
think that we are stewards of the land as climbers, and I just signed on at PAL, Protect Our Winters, and they're really trying hard to also do anything they can for the concerns that we just heard about, and we're getting more and more news about the statistics, and that should wake people up. So I think we just need to keep talking about it and doing something about it.
Our next question will be from Garrett Beal.
I had a question for Dr. Djumaliev. If he's still here, assuming he is. I guess it can be for anyone then. Oh, okay, perfect.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, my question was for specifically in Kyrgyzstan, how can mountain communities balance economic development with the need to preserve cultural traditions and natural resources?
It came back on.
Listen good.
It came back.
Yes, thank you for the question. All these programs, which is developed by the government for the preservation and also for the climate change aspects. So the government takes very ambitious commitments to reduce CO2 emission, for example, by 2050, to reduce the CO2 emission by almost to make it neutral. However, so we rely on the partnership with international organizations and also with the partner countries. And there are a number of actions should be taken by the Kyrgyz government, because we see that in the transport sector, so the emission in Kyrgyzstan and in Central Asian region makes 30% of pollution comes from the transport sector. And itself, the Central Asian countries, they all are the landlocked countries, and also they are located in the mountainous region. And all the government of Central Asia, so they develop a common approach to reduce the CO2 emission, because there are two countries like Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. This is upstream countries, so we call it water tower for Central Asian countries. So they use water from the glaciers for the irrigation. But the upper countries, so they need this water to produce electricity in the winter time. So this consultations is ongoing with all Central Asian countries, because the downstream countries, they can compensate with the gas and oil for the heating in winter time for the mountain countries. So this topic is discussed a long time ago, and many times it's on the agenda. And we see that the integration of Central Asian countries is one of the good approach, maybe for use of the restricted resources in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. This has already been partially touched on by Ms. Hill, but my question is for Dr. Matt Olson. It's, over the years, what changes have you seen in mountain development due to climate change or tourism? And what can young people right now do to protect mountain development?
Yeah, great question. And you should ask a little more questions. I'm here all week, right? Right. So I have seen POW is a great example of more advocacy going on for mountain communities, and my co-advisor is heavily involved, or my co-advisor was heavily involved with POW. And it's great to see what they're doing, bringing the attention to some of the issues and also many of the consequences that are going on. And I really think that is the first step, and that's what's needed. Communication, better communication, and better understanding. I'll just say, scientists are terrible politicians. Like we try to be very unbiased and just provide these facts, and so we need connections to better make change happen. And I'll just say, it's probably not going to come from scientists. We'll try to do our best, but we need folks that are interested in making those connections and doing the advocacy work.
I would just say that maybe we need a better connection to the corporations that control all of these resources and profits from it. That would be my wish, but I'm not a politician either, but I'd be happy to advocate for that purpose, because I think that is where a lot of these changes could be made, because I think the money is there. It's just that it needs to be allocated in this way, and everybody needs to get together and say, yes, we're all going to contribute to this because this is important. We need to save our world, because it really is going to look dire if you look at the statistics and really understand what this means in 30 to 50 years. How will our world look then? And then it's too late.
Thank you so much for those thoughtful questions and the call to action responses. We've had a great conversation here, and I'm sure we have more questions we would like to explore, but unfortunately we do need to move forward with our program. But thank you to our guest speakers. I will now welcome Ali Holt.
Perfect, thank you, Janessa. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. R. Connolly to the podium for an announcement. Dr. Connolly is currently a research director at the Herbert Institute for Public Policy. Previously, Dr. Connolly served as the associate provost at Utah Valley University, and he is a respected scholar in public administration with expertise in public management, leadership, performance measurement, and survey research. His career includes significant work in rural economic and community development through the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs, as well as leadership in information technology policy at the Center for Technology and Government at the University of Albany. His current research focuses on public sector sustainability, rural policy, and innovative technology applications within government. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Connolly.
I wish I did all that. Could be with all of you today. I would be remiss if I didn't do one thing as I'm standing up here, and that is thank all of the students who put this on today. You may have felt a little overwhelmed, but congratulations. This is really, really wonderful, and I appreciate all the speakers. So my announcement is very brief. In conjunction with the 5-year action for the development of mountain regions and the Herbert Institute, there's an edited volume that is being produced with all of this, and we want to strongly encourage faculty, students, and others in the community to join us in producing efforts for this edited volume. The simple part of the announcement is the volume welcomes contributions that may include student authors and that address, analyze, or advance understanding across the 3 integrated dimensions of sustainable mountain development: environmental stewardship, social well-being, and economic resilience. I think somebody can find something that fits in there for all of their interests. So you'll see this announcement. Please, if you're a student, reach out. Consider working with a faculty member. Faculty members reach out as well. This will be a great opportunity and a really nice way for UVU to contribute to these efforts. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that 20 years ago, UVU got involved in all of this, and we were the first North American institution to become a part of this, which is pretty cool that UVU sits in that spot. So congratulations to all of you once again, and here we go. Let's get this volume going.
Thank you, Dr. Connolly. We will now take a moment to present
certificates to individuals who have advocated for sustainable mountain development in the state of Utah and globally this year. These certificates honor contributions to International Mountain Day and the United Nations Mountain Partnerships campaign to raise awareness about mountains and mountain communities. Recipients who are not present will receive their certificates by email, but please come to the stage when you hear your name. It is my pleasure to invite Ms. Lynn Hill to present these certificates and take photos with the recipients. Dr.
Mirror,
Bob
the mirror.
Pole. Dr. Matt Olson. Dr. David Connolly. Dr. Daniel Horns.
Faut que je le mette au milieu. Roland, Antoine.
Dr. Stephen Clark. Dr. Janet Colvin. Dr. Jay Desart. Miss Tanika Armstrong. Miss Allie Stratton. Miss Kathy Ambrose. Is DJ Smith here? Dr. Richard Cho. Dr. Abdusai. Dr. Tofan. Garrett Bingham. Sasha Bird. Jacob Burnthorne. Abby Fisher. Chris Brown. Ali Holt. Julie Chris Loyoko Nyanza. Samuel Olson. Anton Wong. Anna Caballero. Roland Kayenga. Susan Jorgensen. Lillian Hagenboss. Savannah Neiman. Caleb Ream. Nicholas Robinson. Jeanette Ruiz. Alexander Wolton. Martin Ferrero. Noah Farnsworth. Tate Pace. Hannah Smith. Natalie Figueroa. Cade Van Rye. Amos Brock. Erin Lammy. Curtis Bristol. And Jeanette Michelle Purcell. Our students and club members for your contributions. We also will extend our gratitude to Dr. Muktar Djumaliev, Dr. Matt Olson, and Ms. Lynn Hill for taking the time to speak with us today. Your presentations were both an honor to hear and were very informative. This event could not have been successful without dedication and commitment from our club leaders. We've had a very busy semester, and I'm especially proud of my colleagues and how they handled their respective responsibilities. A big thank you to all of you, and particularly Cade Van Rye for his incredible work behind the scenes, setting up the event, ensuring all his tech runs smoothly, and making sure Dr. Djumaliev and his students in Kyrgyzstan had a seamless experience. Your efforts have made everything fun and ran flawlessly, and we greatly appreciate you. Please join me in a round of applause for Cade and all of our student leaders. To wrap up our event, we extend our gratitude and appreciation for the support from the UVU's Department of History and Political Science, the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Herbert Institute for Public Policy, the College of Science, and the Earth Science Department for making this event possible. We will now present gifts to our guest speaker, which will be followed with a photo. We'll take a group photo, is what I meant.